Deconverted man here. Well, some otherwise intelligent atheists are sadly once again suggesting that feminism is needed in some way, shape, or form. Now, I think that this is because they are perhaps unaware of the ideology that is attached to that particular word, because it has been kind of popularized that that word means something that it doesn't. It's about equality and it's about women's rights and all this. But that's just what the definition is, and it's not actually true. It's kind of like saying, jihad. Well, that's not about, you know, Islam, and it has nothing to do with it. It's separate from Islam. It's like, well, no, it's kind of not, So you say, well, Islam is fine, well, you get rid of the jihad part, get rid of the part where they kill people that leave their religion, and get rid of the other parts, and yeah, get rid of all the bad parts, and then it's fine, right? But then it's no longer the thing that it is. So they think that feminism is in support of women, but that's blissful ignorance of what the word is, and it's a low resolution view of reality. It can only happen when one doesn't look into the details of feminism. And I wrote this on my community posts as well, that if they took a look at what feminism really was, they would never ever use that word. We don't need feminism. We never did. What we do need is nothing like that ideology, not at all. And I guess people will promote the word being unaware of its sinister side, or perhaps more frightening, they do know and they don't care, and that's kind of scary. Now, Janice Flamingo, I can never say her last name right, and others have spoken about feminism and what it really is and what it's really about, and how uh, evil the ideology actually is, even going back all the way to the first wave feminism, because people try to say, oh, the first wave was good and the second wave was good. Maybe the third wave, that's what you're talking about. It's like, well, why would you saddle yourself with such a burden of vileness? Like, why is that word so important to maintain? We don't need it. There are people that are against women. There is a lot of that, especially within uh, the Abrahamic religion, and all the predecessors after that. Islam, of course. Being wrong about women and all this. The treatment of women is bad in those religions and ideology. The treatment of women within feminism is insane. They're essentially looked at as ultimate victims. And also, there's this overarching idea of patriarchy, which is this nebulous idea that men are in charge of everything at all times, deep down. Even if there's women in power, men are still somehow in charge. And that, they say it's about equality, but it's not, because all they ever talk about is women issues. And fair enough, women's issues are important, but you don't need the ideology. There is no patriarchy. That's just an illusion. That's not a real phenomenon. And when you get into their writings and you see how visceral they are against men, you really have to wonder why anybody would want to be a feminist at all. Uh, but again, the word has been defined in such a way that people look it up. They say, "Oh, it's about equality. That sounds good," and it's pro women. Oh, that sounds good. Well, but it's not. It's not actually about those things. It's just that's what it pretends to be. But if you don't look into it, you don't know. If you don't listen to those that tell you what it's really about, and actually read the writings of feminists, you won't know. And fair enough, the feminist writings are highly incoherent. Now, there was the Grievance studies, or I believe it was called Grievance studies. I'll link to that in the description. And these two academic professors sent in all this nonsensical things into feminist journals, and a couple of them got published. A couple of them were praised highly. They rewrote Mein Kampf and just took out things like, Jewish, anti-Jewish stuff, and put in patriarchy instead, or whatever. So it was anti-patriarchy, and they were like, "Oh, this is great! This is brilliant! Yes, we love this." And so it showed that there's no journalistic integrity in that field. They do peer review, but there's nothing there. It's like creationist peer review. And I thought about, sending a joke paper into one of these creationist places. Their requirements for the paper is, well, the same as it is for actual real papers. So you have to know how to write one of those papers. There's an abstract required and citations, etc. Of course, they just want it to lean towards creationism, and in a similar way, the feminist wants you to lean towards feminism in your writings. And if you do that, you can get your paper in, even if you make up your stuff. You have no actual data to speak of, because it just has the keywords and things that promote the thing that they already believe in, similar to creationism. And the ideologies are not dissimilar in that they make up a belief, and then they pursue that belief, and then they find that to be true everywhere they look. And of course, you have feminist frequency. You have, I want to say Anita Sarkeesian, was it? And of course, the Gamergate thing going way back when. And of course, you have Atheism Plus that happened way back when as well. And sadly, I think people have forgotten about what happened. That was Richard Spencer, but I'm not sure now offhand. At any rate, I'll put links to everything in the description if you're interested in learning it. So Atheism Plus was this weird thing that happened with a convention where the idea was to add on to atheism feminism, because we need feminism, and feminism is a good thing, and all these rules came into play. And then there's this creepy guy that hit on this gal in an elevator, and there was a whole thing about it, and it got way blown, out of proportion for more than what it was, because it was just he hit on her in an elevator. Okay, that's inappropriate. I don't know, but it became like, demonize him and he's evil and vile. And I was like, but he did other stuff and said other stuff that was pretty weird and creepy and not okay. And finally, the whole thing fell apart because many atheists realized, let's just be about atheist stuff. Let's just do that. There are many atheists that happen to be on the more liberal side rather than the conservative side, and there's this easy alignment that the religious tend to go conservative, and so then the atheist goes liberal, and that's fine. But then those ideologies those political ideologies brush up against other ideologies, and as I've always said, we must constantly be vigilant that we are not allowing ourselves to be infected by mind viruses that take over our way of thinking. And feminism is all about taking over your way of thinking and making you think in a certain way. Everything is patriarchy. Everything is there's toxic maleness, and it's like toxic masculinity. Well, what about toxic feminism or toxic womanality or girl? And it's like it's never spoken of. It's like women can't, are pure and virtuous, and so they can't ever, whatever. And then of course there's a whole fake thing of the made up idea of rape culture, which isn't a thing in America, absolutely is in the Middle East where Islam is. And then there's this weird kind of get along thing that many feminists, not all, but many do, have this weird thing with Islam where they really love Islam, like they protect it. They don't want things said about it. And if you're wondering, the whole Islamophobia word, I think, I can't maybe show for sure that this is the case, but I think that came from feminism. I don't know that I can make a solid argument for that, so be skeptical that that's true. But it's an ideology, and we don't need that word. We have we have other words for equality. It's just equality or egalitarian. What's wrong with that? Or we need to recognize that people say things about women and treat women or want to treat women in a way that they ought not to. There's other ways to phrase it that stay away from this ideology in full, and we need to do that because you don't want to associate yourself with something like that, not knowing what it actually is about. And I fear that sadly too many are like, well, but no, that the word is defined in this way. You can define words any way you want. People try to define God into existence all the time, so that doesn't make the word what it actually is, and we need to be careful about it. So when I see that some atheists who otherwise are they're brilliant in their respected genre of thing that they do, and some talk about science and some talk about just philosophy or a mix of both, and many of them are far more prominent and successful than I ever will be, and that's hey, more power to them. Great, they're doing good, they're doing good things. But then I see them saying, oh yeah, we need feminism. No, we really don't. I wish you understood what the word was and looked it up and looked into it and checked out what the feminists actually have said, and it's pretty darn wacky and scary, and you can pull up a feminist paper and read about it. Written about it on my blog at least once. Let's see. I want to say something about Badger or what was it? No. Oh man, I can't remember. Yeah, critical theory. That's another thing that they came up with. King Crocoduck went after it hardcore, and this is kind of tangentially related to feminism. That this critical theory came about within academia to kind of undermine all sorts of academic stuff, and postmodernism was part of that, and they're trying to undermine science and math and things like this. And you saw people say that numbers are made up constructs. Well, they are, but they also don't mean anything. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? So yeah, it's scary. Let's see, I don't know that I can find the thing. I'm trying to remember what I wrote it. I don't think that I can find it right now, but at any rate, I'll link to it later. So that's it. Oh, and by the way, yeah, if anyone's wondering, I took down the video I did that was on the Chris Rock and getting slapped. I thought that that I needed to redo that or reword it. Let's see. My view, whatever the positive frequency of any system and any society, all systems good with them will be corrupted, and I'm not averse to the word ideology. Yeah, I mean, anything can be corrupted, and there's certainly good parts of anything to take. Ideally, you take the good and you leave behind the bad. I don't know why you would use a term that has such corruptedness attached to it. Now, there is a good fight to fight for the word atheist. But atheist is not an ideology. There's nothing about atheist that tells you what to do or how to be or how to view the world, other than that you don't believe in a God. Other than that, there's nothing else to it. So when people say, oh, atheist means this or that or the other thing, then yeah, defend it. But word like feminist has an actual ideology attached to it. So if you say, well, but no, that's not the sort of feminism I'm talking about, it's like, then don't even use the word. What's the point? So there's some sort of like, I like this word and I need this word. It's like, you don't. You just need the things that are good from it. Just take that, and then you don't need the word, and you don't have that package that comes along with it. So that's not a fight I think that is worth fighting. Myself, I guess somebody somewhere might want to make the word into something else, and I don't know that that's possible. I don't know why you would. Yeah. So the current meaning of the word ideology, system ideas. Yes. Yeah, I suppose that the word ideology, in and of itself might be something that requires some deeper thought, because it's like, well, what does that mean? And what I mean by it is things that tend to take over your way of thinking, that are like mind viruses, that people get hooked up into it and start to believe the stuff that it teaches and are unable to distance themselves from it. Like with Anna Sarkeesian, she did this, I believe it was her, I could be wrong now, but she did this whole video on video games are negative towards women, and the male gaze, and she played like a Batman game and played as Batgirl, and you see her butt, and it's like, oh, look, you're seeing her butt, like, and it's like, yeah, but if you play as Batman, you see his butt, but oh, he's got a cape, so it's covered, so that makes, and it was just so sad and ridiculous, because she was trying to find the bad thing everywhere and in everything, and so that that's sort of the thing that I'm railing against, and that people don't know, that. Thunderfoot did a whole bunch of stuff on feminism way back when. Those videos are still around. So, and like I said, King Crocoduck, well, his videos maybe are more about postmodernism than feminism per se, but he's got stuff. So it's out there. So how people can just throw the word out and say we need this without seeming to know what it is baffles me. But what are you gonna do? All right, I guess that's all I've got for that. Not much else to say. So thanks for listening. Hopefully that this won't get me burned at the stake, but if it does, oh well, whatever. All right, take it easy. Hey. That's fine, beep. All right, okay, that's all for now. And hey, slapping somebody over a word is wrong, so I guess I might redo a talking about Will Smith smacking Chris. I don't know if I want to, because everybody's talked about it now. It's just like, oh my word, everyone's talked about it, and I dropped a knife on my plate. All right, that's it. Good night, everybody. Whee! Feminism's bad. That's the short and long of this. Okay, there you go.